You can have it all. Great pay, awesome benefits, a flexible schedule, the chance to grow. At Cox, we're recruiting auto and diesel technicians to join our Mannheim and Fleet Services teams. If you're ready for a new job and want to experience an award-winning workplace, drive your career forward with us. Visit cox.career/autotech to learn more. That's cox.career/autotech.
Damas y caballeros, chicos y chicas, niños de todas las edades, bienvenidos al Blower Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, con el pensamiento correcto de un cerebro izquierdo, haciendo el trabajo que los American Media Maggots no hacen, operando detrás de las líneas enemigas de la California ocupada, en vivo y en directo, desde Estudio 23, de la vasta, rica, voluminosa y detestable SHR Media Network. Aquí está la mayor decepción de SHR, el Zeppelin Bloviating.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all
I love that intro. Okay. Did you know that there are guys that will read scripts for you like that in Spanish? And the reason that I had that's a standard Bloviating Zeppelin intro done in Spanish because basically that's who controls the state of California. That's who the state of California bows down to. Huzzah, huzzah! All the illegal immigrants lined up in a row waiting to get all their free cheese in this state. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network in the palatial and sumptuous, take a gander, SHR Media Studios. You gotta belly up. You do. You have to belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back, all of you. I don't discriminate, all of you. Everybody that's back, it's great to see you. Biff is going to be your bartender. Tonight he pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is indeed lighted. Oh, maybe not quite so much. Can we move it into the... Oh, there we go. It's a little bit more into the thing. The reason I mentioned the lava lamp is because you can listen on the SHR Media Network at shrmedia.com, and that's where you're going to get in the chat room. Sorry, that's the only place that I monitor chat. I can't do 35 different things at once. But if you want to watch the show, you can watch it on the SHR Media Facebook page live right now, or you can watch it on the SHR Media YouTube channel. Yes, we're back on YouTube. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the drinks, they are not. All we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight, it's Thursday, the last show in the series this week. It's Thursday, May 3rd, the year of our Lord 2018. And welcome. Great to see everybody back. We have a special guest that's going to be calling in, and with luck, I've got everything taken care of because I've paired this phone up to Bluetooth to that board right there, which you cannot see. And that's, we're going to see how that works. We have our phone system that has been upgraded in this fashion and three other fashions by Sackhead Sean on Wednesday, who has been diligently working behind the scenes, keeping everything tidy and whatnot. So I can't wait if Dan Butcher is going to be around. The show got upgraded to the point now when people call in, theoretically, they should be able to hear the exact same stuff that I hear over the headphones and that you hear either listening on Spreaker or listening and watching on either YouTube or Facebook. I've wanted that for a long time. and conference calling. Oh my, it's going to be grand. Anyway, tonight, soldier, patriot, conservative, radio host, and much, much more. KAISER SHUFF, otherwise known as Sword Point 9. He has his own show, KAISER'S KASTLE. He's going to be on tonight. Now, I can tell you about anything in terms of law enforcement. I still have lots and lots of people that I speak to in terms of law enforcement on every level in the United States. But I have to admit, I didn't do any time in the military. I chose to do all my time, basically double the amount that most average cops do. Yes, I was that stupid. And KAISER SHUFF knows just about everything you can possibly know about the military. He's been everywhere. No, I'm not going to Bigfoot my own show. I'll let him tell you when he comes here. He's going to be here at about 11:15 Eastern Time, 8:15 Pacific Time, and in Bolivia it's 1723 and 724.823.25 divided by pi hours. Bolivia seems to have an odd time system. I've never quite understood that. We're going to start the show, however, as I like to. And I can either start the show with a happy story, or I can start the show with, maybe another Kurt Schlichter article, because he writes the way that I would do if I had that particular style that he does. And tonight, because the massive pussification of this country is well in progress, Kurt Schlichter tonight has written, "Not being a wimp works." Maybe Kim Il-whatever won't denuclearize, but then again, the roly-poly dictator has seemed to come around to our way of thinking. Maybe it's the lingering awesomeness of Barack Obama that led him to acts of unprecedented good behavior. Maybe it's just that he's decided to be a nice guy, or maybe it's because under Donald Trump, the United States stopped acting like a simpering wuss. Wait a minute. This is a visual and an audio. Yahtzee. I just happened to say correct. Wussies and wimps. Why, those are playground words, unfit for a discussion of foreign relations and international diplomacy, except that's entirely wrong. Human nature plays out in the playgrounds. The lessons taught by run-ins with bullies and fisticuffs under the jungle gym are, in many ways, far more important than the hoary discourses about realism and soft power taught in the very best schools and think tanks these days. If someone gets in your face and you break their nose, they don't get in your face anymore. You don't need to go to Georgetown to learn that. In fact, going to Georgetown is more likely to make you unlearn what is the most important lesson of all. Power means being able to make...
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/get started for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
Make other people do things they don't want to do by hurting them if they refuse. That's reality. Our best and brightest are often taught the DIME paradigm, D-I-M-E, that the components of national power are diplomatic, talking and cajoling, information, messaging and propaganda, military, kaboom, and economic, writing a check. Die is okay, D-I-E, but die is what you'll do if you don't have a powerful M, military. But they didn't put M third merely because putting it first would screw up the acronym. Our transnational elite does not want to acknowledge the indisputable fact that at the end of the day, the guy who can kill you and is willing to do so is going to win. Power is an infantryman standing on a piece of ground, owning it, and the ability to keep him there. Sure, terrorists can pull off a one-time strike, but they can't hold ground. Just ask ISIS. You'll need a medium, though, because they tried to hold ground, and they all died. America has power. But far too long, and for too long, our enemies dealt with a president they didn't believe had the guts to assert it to defend Americans' interest. Oh, the elitists who used to control our foreign policy are not anti-war. They're just anti-any war that serves American interests. We can get into a fight in Libya with all the attendant appalling consequences from Benghazi to the flood of refugees, but only because they know that doing so will do nothing to help our own country. That way, their collective conscience is clear. In their minds, the only good war is one where Americans die for nothing. Tribe A wants to kill Tribe B over who knows where it stands. Let's send a bunch of red staters over to referee that conflict while our non-gendered child Caden takes a gap year finding a Z-self in Tibet. But a bunch of mullahs high on their 7th century apocalyptic garbage want to nuke us and our allies. He better deploy some pallets of cash because we shouldn't ever fight for something as mundane as keeping these creeps from dropping a hot rock on the homeland. Donald Trump has his priorities straight. He has resurrected and embodied the Jacksonian model that fell out of fashion with the foreign policy establishment, but not with the folks expected to pick up rifles and deploy. Andrew Jackson, who Democrats used to appreciate back when they represented the normals who go fight our wars, their new preferred constituencies of fussy social justice warriors and virtue-signaling hipsters would never be caught dead in uniform, was not afraid of righteous conflict, nor are most Americans. Remember the Alamo. Remember Pearl Harbor. Never forget 9/11. USOBs might get one punch in, but then Americans are going to get up, brush off, and kill you all. You see, Americans are happy to fight if they get a good answer to the perfectly reasonable question that the foreign policy elite hates. Why is this particular war worth me or my kid's life and a whole bunch of money? Americans love to fight when there's a reason. They just don't love to fight when there's no reason, like when our betters don't think that the war they got us into is actually worth winning. America's will was never broken by the Vietnam War. The people sending their sons over there just figured out our elite didn't have the stomach to win and said, well, then the hell with it. They're done dumping the bodies of non-elite young people into a meat grinder thought up by a bunch of cruise-shilling Fredo-cons, leftist academics, and failed novelists ready to spill other people's blood, solving #ready crises. Trump gets it. And of course he does. He'd never get fleeced like Obama did by Iran, and he will end that deadly charade. See, Trump grew up in the smash-mouth world of New York real estate, not in some milquetoast academic oasis where competition is considered tacky and American interests are secondary to liberal ideology in the eyes of the citizens of the world in charge. That's why foreign policy liberals get rolled. They imagine our enemies are as weak, feckless, and afraid as they are. Trump and Kim Jong, licensed to ill, understand each other not because they are moral equivalents. Our morally bankrupt elite believes that, but because for good to prevail, it needs to be ready, willing, and able to kick evil's butt. Trump has apparently made the simple, crude, and utterly obvious play by leveraging American military power to force the North Koreans to the table. Sure, there's diplomatic pressure by way of China, information operations designed to destabilize the regime, and promises of money to allies, but at the end of the day, it's our military that gives our enemies pause. Trump's vision and his intent are absolutely they're clear. Conform, or the United States will kill you and flatten your crappy little country. Fire up that seance to ask ISIS how defying a Mattis-powered U.S. military works out, fat boy. And the dictator appears to be conforming without a shot fired. There's a lesson here. It's a lesson that was never learned by our betters like Ben Rhodes and Susan Rice and all the other bloody-handed fools who managed to hobble the most powerful nation on earth for nearly a decade at the cost of hundreds of thousands of American and foreign lives. The United States is powerful because it is strong, but only when it is ready, willing, and able to use that power to serve America's interests. The world saw Barack Obama was weak, feckless, and afraid. It sees that Donald Trump is none of those things, so it fears him. And because of that, we may well have peace. A rather sagacious article by Kurt Schlichter, which is why I read him here. I keep saying this. I'm going to have him on the show. Problem is right now, or maybe the good thing, I don't know, maybe the good thing right now is that he's in the process of just about releasing, I should say, his third book. He has 2 books out right now, and soon to be a third. And he's done rather well. Let me back up a little bit. I should tell you that Kurt Schlichter lives in California. He lives in Southern California. He's not a D.C. warthog. He hasn't grown up around the D.C. crazy mindset, although he is living around the California crazy mindset. But having said that, and because he lives in California, he sees, and all around him every day, and me, are the perfect life lessons of what not to do when you're in a state. So his books, essentially, or I should say his book, they're pretty much nothing but treatises on, what would happen, for example, if California happened to secede from the Union. And that's what his books are about. Now, let me stop right there, because I happen to have KAISER SHUFF on the line right now. And, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Biff, can you hear me?
Yeah, let me turn you up here a little bit because the volume's a little low. Okay, great. So we're talking about Kurt Schlichter. Now we're going to talk to the guy that I promised would be on tonight, KAISER SHUFF. But let me do a little bit of an intro because my guess would be that a lot of folks in the studio right now, there's only one person in the studio, but the people listening right now don't have any idea really who you are. And I want them to become familiar with them, know who you are. So tonight in the saloon, I have the distinct honor of speaking to an individual that I happen to find on Facebook, a place where I don't customarily find people because, as everyone familiar with me already knows, I am a techno-moron. And I still don't know how to operate Facebook with any real form of competency. So, live and direct from the East Coast, Virginia specifically, I'd like to welcome KAISER SHUFF, otherwise known as Sword Point 9, to the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Now, when I say that KAISER is a man of intrigue and danger, and I'm sure he wouldn't quantify himself that way, I'd like to point out what I consider to be some obvious commonalities between us. We're both patriots. And we are both warriors, just in different venues. We've both served our country in various ways. And we are brother sheepdogs, silverbacks, and oathkeepers. You'll find, after listening to him tonight, that KAISER is a true conservative who has served his country in many, many ways and in various forms. We're going to get into that. And like me, KAISER is not afraid at all, in the slightest, to say what's on his mind, particularly when it involves saving the country that he loves, like me. He has his own radio show and his own YouTube channel under the name Sword Point 9, and it's called KAISER'S KASTLE, where he says, hey, take a seat on his big orange couch, pour a coffee, relax, and listen. I could try to give you KAISER's CV, his background. I'm not even going to try. It's that complex and that in-depth. So with that, kind of small, paltry introduction, I would definitely like to introduce and welcome KAISER SHUFF to the saloon. Good evening, brother. Good to hear you.
Hey, it's great to be at the saloon. I'll end up at the bar, my friend. Yeah, the only thing and you know that I say this, I'm just a regular guy. All I do is Forrest Gump myself around this planet, and I happen to see and meet people and do things. So, I mean, you know, it's just, if somebody called me up tomorrow and said, let's go pick apples in, let's say, Yugoslavia, I'd be like, all right, send me a ticket. So that's pretty much how I roll.
To say that you meet people and do things, yeah, I'd say that you meet people and do things. Our paths, the funny thing is that our paths are unified, but at the same time, they're kind of divergent. I spent 41 years in law enforcement, working for federal and local California agencies. You chose another route. You chose to serve in the military in not just one branch, but a number of branches. But what we share, however, is the commonality of patriotism, of love of country, of sacrifice. And these sound like pablum words, but they have true meaning to people that do this. Sacrifice, honor, ethics, and old school philosophies and values. There is so much to get into, but first, I just like to start at the start. What I do for guests that are on the show for the first time, I like to go a little bit into their background, and then, you know, later when folks get to know you and know who you are, how you roll, what you represent, then we get into the politics. I have you back, and then we hit everything in a two-fisted fashion. But first, I'd like to start with, hey, where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Okay, I was born in Columbus, Ohio, myself and a twin sister. We were both bastard children. I grew up in a trailer park. My mother took care of us, and we were fine, you know. But I never really had a father. So going into the military at 17, the Army first, you know, I was fortunate. During that time in the 80s, they were into mentoring. And that meant your NCOs would take you under, or an NCO, some NCO, would take you under their wing. And what they would do is instill honor, integrity, the virtues of being a man. And so that was a wake up and a growing up for me. And so after serving in Europe and then Adak, Alaska, Naval Air Station, I went into the Marine Corps at 20.
Okay.
And during that time, I went through boot at Paris, Paris Island. So people don't get it twisted, like I went to Marine Corps boot camps in Paris,
right?
France.
Just like any other good frog.
Exactly. It's with 2 R's, not with one, folks. And anyways, after that, I went out to Lackland Air Force Base. I was a military policeman in both branches, field military police. I specialized in Europe. I also did nuclear security and physical security. Then in the Marine Corps, I was on the SRT team. I was with 1st FSSG, Force Service Support Group. That does not even exist in the Marine Corps anymore. There was 1st, 2nd, and 3rd FSSG back in the day. I did a RIM pack, which is a Rim of the Pacific, and a West pack on LPD-9 to USS Denver. I've 1st Gulf War I served in, and that was in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Ras Al Jabal, on into Kuwait, blah, blah. Who cares about that, right, guys? And then after that, and during that time, I've been to Thailand, Korea, the Philippines, Japan. I was stationed there for my final year. Got out of the Marine Corps after my 4 years, had a good time, like I said, but I went into the National Guard for my state. And while serving there, I got a couple different MOSs and went to a couple really good units. And I was also a union iron worker, putting myself through college.
Wow, okay.
So I was building it. Yeah, if you go through Columbus, there's probably not a bridge you'll pass over that I didn't have a hand in, because I did tie rebar, what we called rods. I did rods.
Right.
And I also did machinery moving, and structural. I specialized in detail work on structural. I was not a high roller, so don't get that twisted, please.
Okay.
But after that, I went to work for the federal government. My first agency I never talked about because, a lot of things. But then I went to work for Defense Logistics Agency as a police investigator, an investigating police guy, federal side. And we dealt with basically stolen stuff, stolen items from Department of Defense, stealing of time, basic investigations, things like that.
Okay.
Fraud. And then after that, went into Immigration and Customs Enforcement, contracted. And that was in the port of Detroit field office. And then after that, I went to, I've been to Iraq as a contractor 4 times, Afghanistan 4 times, Indonesia. I got to look at my passport. Anyways, Turkey, Kuwait, Dubai. I mean, I spent I'll be 50 this year, so I spent a quarter of my life in the Near East. I specialize in anti-terrorism and PSDs, and I've done a couple static gigs. Usually I run that stuff, but we'll see. We see what happens.
Okay, let me understand. Let me understand so that everybody knows. You were in the Army first, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you mentioned Lackland Air Force Base. That's associated with the Air Force. Were you actually in the Air Force?
No.
Okay.
No. Lackland was for, at that time, now military policemen go to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. When I went into the Army, it was 1 station unit training, okay, as a military policeman. That was at Fort McClellan, Alabama, which is now closed down. It got hit by a brat. The only 2 things left at Fort McClellan now are the Live Nerve Agent Training Center, and that's being run by Homeland, I believe, now.
Okay.
And the Polygraph Institute, which any polygraph examiner who's worth their salt will go through. They do have little courses, places there, but that's the major place where polygraph examiners go still.
Right.
And it was there when I was there, too. In the Marine Corps at that time, we had come in, and our commandant was General Gray, and he was fixing the Marine Corps from the previous commandant. And the previous commandant had moved us from going to Fort McClellan as military policemen to Lackland Air Force Base. So we went through their elite course, a law enforcement course at Lackland Air Force Base.
Okay.
And that's why, it's not like I was in the Air Force. I was in the Marine Corps at that time, but my certificate is from Lackland Air Force Base, Department of the Air Force, and it says, USMC/Navy law enforcement.
So in terms of the military, there almost isn't anything that you haven't done in a general way, or almost any place that you haven't been. You served in the Army, you served in the Marines, you served for the National Guard, you served as an MP, you served across the pond, and then you came back and served as a federal law enforcement officer working for ICE and conducting investigations as well. So you've probably been to Quantico.
No.
You haven't been to Quantico. Okay.
FLETC.
Okay.
Federal
All right.
Law Enforcement Training Center.
Okay, you went to FLETC. Got it. Okay. So you went
been through
Did you go
through Kroll.
Did you go to the FLETC in Brunswick, or did you go to the other ones in
Brunswick?
Okay. All right.
In Brunswick. Glencoe, Georgia is what it's called.
Right, exactly.
Because it's in Glenn County.
Glenn County. Yep.
Yeah. They just named it Glencoe on the paperwork. All your paperwork is Glencoe, Georgia.
Okay. And then you mentioned...
And it used to...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It used to be a naval blimp center. A lot of people don't realize that. That's why when you go on the driving pad, it's done circles because that's how they would moor the blimps in there.
Yep. I've been to FLETC, and I taught driver training there, and I took my instruction from there, that one of a number of courses there. Range 9 is my favorite driving course where it incorporates everything, but they drive on runways where you can chat up to about 80, 85 miles an hour or better on some of those courses. And then they have a multi-block course. They've got everything at Fletzy. It's a wonderful place to be, and it's a wonderful place to train. We got about 2 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. If you were to summarize, well, let me ask you this bluntly. Who runs the military? You already mentioned them, but who actually runs the military and makes things work?
Oh, you're talking about in the Army, we call it the E4 Mafia.
Yeah.
And in the Marine Corps, we call it the Lance Corporal Mafia. And the reason for that is funny.
Yeah.
Because if you want to get something done in either branch, you need something done in admin, medical, whatever.
Yeah.
You just talk to the E4, and as long as you didn't make anybody angry in that area, it'll get done pretty quick.
Yep.
He'll be able to point you where to go, who to see, and basically sort of break the red tape that a lot of you're still going to have to do the paperwork, but instead of doing it prior to,
right,
you can do it a little later or while you're doing whatever. It's just an odd thing, and we say that's who runs the military, and it is.
Okay, so it sounds to me like growing up in Columbus, it was a one-parent family. You had a pretty good idea what happens on the streets, so you weren't some dumb kid that just fell off of some university campus somewhere. And when you went in, I think you said at the age of 17?
Yeah.
Okay. There wasn't, well, let me ask this very bluntly. Last question before the break. When you first went into the Army, was there any one thing in particular that surprised you at your first month, first week, or something like that? When you first went into the Army, if you can remember back that far, what was the first impression that you got out of it?
Yeah, I can answer that. It's going to be a little longer than a minute, but I'll try to do my best.
Okay.
You have to understand, I was a 17-year-old mama's boy, right?
Okay.
But I did go out in the streets, and I did get in fights. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying I hadn't traveled anywhere. I hadn't seen anything really. I saw the streets of Columbus, right?
Right.
So it's not like, I had some vast knowledge. And so when people ask me that question, I have to say, Marines normally would ask me which branch was harder.
Oh, okay.
And so I guess succinctly, I can put it this way. Going into the Marine Corps at 20, I was no longer a scared little boy, and that's what I was.
Right.
Going into Fort McClellan, Alabama for the first time, going away from home. I'd seen bits of the world, right? And at 20, going into the Marine Corps, I didn't have my cherry popped. You understand what I'm saying? I knew pretty much what to expect. It was a little different, but a lot of the standards and the customs. But other than that, it was a good time. Both of them. It was challenging as it needed to be. I had to learn a lot, and there was a big bell curve in both of them that I had to spin up on fairly quickly.
Folks, we're talking to KAISER SHUFF tonight. Military guy, patriot, served in 2 branches, is essentially still serving today. Contractor, worked in the National Guard, great patriot, great American, sheepdog, silverback, Oathkeeper. I could go on and on and on. So we're gonna continue with this conversation in about 4 minutes or so, right after the promo here and the break. Folks, don't go anywhere. We've got a ton. I've just barely touched the surface of all the stuff that this guy knows. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of...
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
That's correct. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are in fact listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show right here in the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Network studios, 2 miles from the locus of evil on the entire West Coast, the Bill Mill, the capital of California, where issues nightly and sometimes during the day the odoriferous scent of sulfur and brimstone just because of the nature of evil itself. Folks, tonight we have the honest pleasure and the honor of meeting and talking to KAISER SHUFF, who chose to do his service to his country in the military, where I chose a law enforcement venue. KAISER, I got to ask you one thing. When you were a kid, what did you want to be? Did you have any idea what it was that you wanted to be or do when you grew up?
Oh, yeah, I did. There's a book, and it's the only thing I've ever stolen in my life, and I stole it from my school. Seriously, about
Okay.
14 years of age, I got this book called Sad Swashbuckler. It was about the life of William Walker. A lot of people know him. They called him a filibuster. Him and trying to think of the gentleman's name now. It's Vanderbilt. He was, I want to say, a Commodore Vanderbilt, and him had this little feud thing going. And the story, anyways, intrigued me because little known fact that William Walker actually was president of Nicaragua. He took over Nicaragua. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to go be a president of some other country. I just want to do something. And so that's what really guided me. And I knew that I could do anything I put my mind to. And while I haven't been a president of another country yet, I have led men from other countries, you know, in situations. And anyways, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I can honestly say I got no regrets. And I don't have the one thing so many people I've met do have. I should have, would have, could have. I don't have them. I don't have those thoughts.
God bless
because
you, brother.
everything I wanted to do, I've done.
Yep. God bless you, brother. I've had some challenges in my life with health, cancer, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make any difference. But I'll tell you what, the way I've lived my life, the way I've conducted myself, and the things that I've done shit that no one will ever know about. On the other hand, I've done things that make me absolutely, resolutely proud to the point where if I expired at the end of this show, I will have had a complete, full, crazy-ass life full of tons of shit that 95% of the people in this country have never done, never envisioned, and I'll bet you are exactly like that. And that's how you live a life. Full. Life by the drop.
Yeah.
I won't have any regrets if I cack tonight. You know, they issue me my factory issued heart attack after I close up the show. I will have no regrets because I will have done and have done so many incredible things.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, you know, when my time on this planet and I slip this mortal coil expires, I at least, you know, I've raised my son. I really, when you brought up my channel, my YouTube, even though I have guests on and stuff,
mm-hmm.
The whole point of it is I have a lot of people on that have known for a while, and some people that, you know, I've met along the way in this life, you know, when I do have guests on. But it's really because I didn't talk about a lot of stuff with my family. I mean, they just have times where, you know, Dad wasn't there.
Right.
So they really didn't. And at that time, I still had a security clearance and, you know, whatever, it still do. But for those things, I didn't talk about. You know, now I'm going to be 50. I really don't care. What's the worst that they can do? Put me in somewhere and, okay, I got a couple years left. So what?
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you this question, because your answers are going to, I believe, point out again what kind of an individual you are. So let me ask you this. What were some of your earlier jobs that you had when you were, say, in maybe elementary school, junior high, high school? What kind of jobs did you have?
Oh, shoot. When I was a kid, I had the best job. From 14 to 17, I worked at KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was a fry guy.
Okay.
And you remember the old song Fly Girl or Fly Guy
right.
from the 80s,
mm-hmm.
the rap? That's what we used to sing back there. Fry Guy, you know. That's why I said it's kind of humorous. But, yeah, I loved that job. I used to say it was the best job I ever had in my life, but, you know, for a long time.
You've had bigger.
And, what's that?
You've had bigger jobs, certainly.
Yeah.
But my point is that you started off young working. I was a kid, like 9 years old or so. I mean, that's when I first got my Social Security numbers. I used to throw papers.
Right.
I used to work for the complex that I lived in in Kettering, Ohio for a while. You and I are similar in terms of that, and what that equates to, in my mind, is work ethic. And that's something that, again, you and I share in common. Now, you mentioned you have a son. I wasn't going to get into this until a little bit later, but I would wager that you are extremely proud to know that he's starting to step right into your footsteps, and how proud that would make me as a father that my son wanted to do what I've done.
Oh yeah, it's something. He's got his own path, but the line does in fact march on. The interesting thing, I think that my takeaway is that just like I was an Eagle Scout. My son is.
Okay.
And now we've all seen what happened with the Boy Scouts.
Oh my God.
I don't even want to get into that really, but
Yeah.
But at least he was an Eagle Scout when it meant something, and so hopefully that stuff gets fixed. But the whole military thing that he's doing, he's got his own path. All I'm trying to do is just let him ride that path. That's his path. I can't control it. Now, if something were to happen to him, like kidnapped or something overseas, then Daddy would get busy. But other than that.
Yeah, I bet you could get very busy, Kaiser. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because you are also politically aware. Well, let me back up, okay? Let me back up, and I failed to ask this from the very beginning, and I should have, and I apologize, because I customarily do it for the first time that I invite somebody on the show. Tell people where you can be found on social media, and I'd like you to tell people about your own radio show, where it is, and what it does.
It's on YouTube. It's called KAISER'S KASTLE, but it's the actual channel's name is Sword Point 9.
Mm-hmm.
All low caps, Sword Point, and then the numeral 9. It's my old call sign from my military time. So that's pretty much what it is, and I talk about a lot of things. We can talk about that stuff, I guess, later. But I've been prescient for a long time, and usually what I'll talk about on my channel, you'll see a month or two later. It's actually going faster now.
It is.
So, yeah, it is, because with the Korea thing, I put it out. Now where they're going to actually do it is actually the right. But I did not see the meeting of Moon and happening so quickly.
Yeah, who could have forecast that? But it's very interesting that you mention that you have a bit of prescience about you, and I would say the same revolves around myself as well in some matters. But I also submit that that's because you and I have so much requisite training, education, and experience that with all those things combined, we have the ability to forecast, if you will, a little bit about what may actually occur next. I have so many questions, tons and tons of questions. The next one would be, you're obviously politically aware now. Do you remember that there was any particular event or any particular time or any incident that make you go, boom, I really do need to be politically aware?
Honestly, when I'll tell you, I know the exact time.
Okay.
It was August 2nd. I was, and this would have been First Gulf War, 1990.
Right.
90 and 91, yeah. August 2nd. I remember Saddam Hussein meeting with the ambassador at that time for Iraq. It'll come to me. I'm getting old, folks, so I'm going to have to think to remember her name. But anyways, what ended up happening is she told him it's an Arab-to-Arab matter on the invasion of Kuwait, and you guys, handle it the way Arabs do. And then he invaded. She knew how Arabs do. And then all of a sudden we got put on lockdown. By August 7th, we were lock, stock, and barrel in the port of Ras Al Jabal. And I keep wanting to say April Gillespie, but that's not her name. It'll come to me.
Okay.
Wow, I can't believe I'm mind dumping her. but anyways, that happened. And so when that did happen, I was like, I better start paying attention. You know, before that, life was a party in Europe, man. I mean, the wall was still up when I was in the Army. Adak was a challenge, you know, because it's just a small island. There wasn't much to do, honestly. But there was cool stuff we did. I mean, whatever. And then in the Marine Corps, it was still kind of a party for a while. And then, you know, getting shipped off to my first war. And, of course, talking about it with NCOs and everything, we were all like, man, we could have trained harder, even though we were really training hard. For our unit was massively training all the time. And what ended up happening is we got deployed, and you still have those, you know, things. And there's an old saying that a friend of mine told me this is as a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some dude was complaining about this, that, or the other. And I looked over at him and I said, man, just chill out with that. And I said, we're working with what we got. And this South African brother of mine looks over and he goes, you can only fuck with the cock you got. And so that's pretty much, that's been my credo since then. So that you know, that's just my POV.
Okay. That leads into this next question, and I told you that I was going to ask you this because it's affected me incredibly, and I would expect that there are situations that have affected you in such a way. When I first have a guest on, one of the important questions that I pose is, there have to have been certain critical, pivotal moments in your life. That is to say, the time when life appears to be going one particular direction, and then suddenly some kind of an event occurs and seems to change everything and send you in another direction. For me, there were three pivotal, really critical moments in my life. Can you think to what moments ended up, maybe I should say this, what moments ended up defining you as an individual?
I would say my first one was raising my right hand at MEPS, Military Entrance and Processing Center in Columbus at 17 for the flight that I was getting ready to take, you know, joining the Army. That was a changing moment. And then the idiocy of me being in the Army and saying, well, the Army hasn't given me the war I wanted. So, and I did want one. No, I did. I really did.
I believe you.
There's no way to prove yourself.
It's like George Patton.
There's no way to prove yourself in the field of battle and the field of arms.
That's the same thing. That's the same thing George Patton said.
So, and so I had to join the Marine Corps for my war. And they gave it to me, you know. Sometimes you shouldn't ask for something that you're going to get.
Yeah.
But it was like I said, it wasn't all bad. I'm not going to hate on it. I mean, there's some issues we can talk about sometime. But the thing about it is my third and final was when I left. Let me see how I put this. When I left federal service and decided I was just going to do my own thing, and let the devil be damned, I was like, this is either going to make or break me, and it made me. And so I like I said, I have no regrets. I'm happy in every way that it turned out. You know, I get a paycheck when I go, and it's in a profession that I have a love-hate with. It's more of an addiction.
It is.
It's not really when you become, well, there's a lot to it. I mean, we can get into that, but it's a calling like a priesthood. But then the problem is the calling becomes an addiction. And I can tell you, like, when your son's born, I was going to sit outside and smoke cigarettes when my son was born.
Right.
And a buddy of mine who was an iron worker with me goes, man, you're stupid. He goes, you got to be in there. It's a high, and this guy was a drug user, and I don't do dope. I tried marijuana one time at 14. It put me to sleep. So I drank beer instead. But the thing about it was he said, it's better than any high you've had. You got to see your son take his first breath. So I'm like, okay. And I did it. I went in there to watch his birth. And it is a high that I can't describe to you. Words fell and I can't explain it, but I tell everybody that they should do that. And then the other one is coming under fire.
Okay.
And knowing everything can end. That is a high, and then the low is so rapid after it's over. I can't describe that either, but it becomes a drug. It really does.
It does. Because I've been shot at 3 times. I told this originally, and I ended up shooting and mortally wounding somebody back in the day, so to speak, and got raked over the coals for it. But it's doing what you do, doing what I do. It's really interesting that you mentioned that it's kind of like an addiction. I doubt you've heard of the dude, but there's a guy that I had on the show, an author. His name is Matt Betley. And he was in the Marines for many, many years. He writes suspense and thriller novels. And he quite easily, he'll tell you all day long that he became an alcoholic because he got going on the high of being present, of the action, of the danger, and that addiction to what he enjoyed translated to another addiction that he had to beat and constantly has to fight today. So I find that very insightful about what you said, about what you do, what we both have chosen to do, and how if you don't keep a handle on that fucking rattlesnake, it is going to bite you, and it is going to bite you very, very seriously.
It's an addiction that guarantees your death. You know, I as I tell my wife and my son, you know, what way would I rather die? Would I rather die sitting on the couch, crossing the street? Would I rather die on my 2 feet, doing it live on both feet, and taking some?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly.
And I think that's the way to do it. You know, you can't fuck around in the game. It will bite your ass. I've been wounded before. You know, it's just life, man, and it's one of those things that, you know, it happens, and then you whatever, and then you go right back to doing it again.
Yep.
So, I mean, you know, it's not even pain will stop.
Almost.
I don't know.
Almost the textbook definition of an addiction, just in and of itself. We got about 4 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. And around here, by the way, I'm talking to Kaiser Schuff, folks, a patriot, a conservative, a wonderful American who has served his country in 2 separate services. He's been a contractor. He's been working for the federal government in ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, been lots of places around the world that he can't really talk about. And for the last question before we take the bottom of the hour break, if you had to name, if you had to throw something out there, where what one thing do you think people should know about you?
Oh, that's an easy answer, and it's quick actually. It's succinct. I am the ringmaster I'm one of the ringmasters of the 3-ring circus of the shit show. If it's that bad, you know, then that's how I do it. You know, I do it live on both feet, and I'm here for your entertainment, and that's how I look at it. Even when I'm doing it out there, you know, I got my job to do, I got my stuff to do, whatever I'm doing, but I also realize this is for your entertainment. You know, I get paid to do what I do. And I'm not a soldier anymore. I do soldier like crap.
Okay.
Shit. But Anywho, that's super easy answer because that's all I am. You know, if it's bad, then usually I get a call, and that's kind of how it rolls.
If I were asked the same question, the first thing that I would say in reply is two things. I am the captain of my soul, and I am the master of my fate. Whatever it is that I've done it because, and I don't want to break out in Frank Sinatra or anything, but I've done everything that I've wanted to do because I wanted to do it the way I wanted to do it. I've lived life my way. I've danced a little bit to the tune of some other people. That's the way life goes. But at the end of the day, when the end of the day comes for me, and it will, I did it the way I fucking wanted to, when I wanted to do it. And that's
exactly my thought process. Yeah.
That could be one of the best summaries of that kind of stuff. And I kind of surmised that you'd be saying something very similar to that as well. When we come back, we're going to take a break, folks. It's time for the bottom of the hour break. When we come back, I have so many questions that I want to talk to you about in terms of politics, things that are going on, because there's the other thing that I want people to say or to understand is you need to go to this cat's his YouTube channel, and you need to read his Facebook page because he's got tons of military references, friends, acquaintances, and so when I want to illustrate to people that unfortunately way too many folks equate being in the military or being in law enforcement as these folks are stupid. No, I want to tell you quite frankly, after having listened to a lot of the shows that you're on, KAISER SHUFF, to your own show and shows that you've been on with other people, you're probably one of the most intelligent guys I've met and will ever have the pleasure to meet in quite some time. Folks, don't go away. Come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the unpleasant blind guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're into now the second hour of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR Media Studios, 2 miles from the veritable Bill Mill, the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the capital of the state of California, itself a leftist haven of crap, literally and figuratively as well. We're listening and conversing tonight with KAISER SHUFF, a military guy, a soldier, a patriot, a conservative, an Oathkeeper, Silverback, a Sheepdog, you name it. Probably there's a lot of things that he's done. Now, we're going to get into the meat of the matter here really soon, because right. I got to ask these two questions, though, because I'm just kind of curious. What would you say were some of the best books that you've ever read? Any book, anywhere, that you happen to have gone through?
I would say the most impactful for me definitely was, and it's written at like a 7th grade level, folks, so you guys will enjoy it. It's honestly Sad Swashbuckler, The Life and Times of William Walker.
Ah, okay.
I can't remember the author's name.
Okay.
And then the other book that really, I actually got to meet her. I didn't know it was a female, but it's not really a book, but it was a Leavenworth paper when I was in the Army on the Russians, and it was written by some, at the time I thought it was a fellow, some dude by the name of Condoleezza Rice.
Really?
Like, who is this person, right? And then all of a sudden, by the time, I hit federal service, she was a force of nature.
Yeah.
And then I met her in, 2005. So at the embassy in Baghdad. And I think I told you the story. I guess I'll share it now. But anyways, her Leavenworth paper was on Russia. So you asked about the book. I'll answer that. If you want to hear the story, I'll tell that.
Sure, please. Hell yeah.
Okay. Here's what happened. We're just in the embassy annex in Baghdad. And all of a sudden, she shows up. And she's glad-handing, shaking everybody's hands. And me and a brother of mine, we're on, like, the corner. If you've ever seen, you can see it actually in the documentary I'm in. It's called Shadow Company. You can look it up on YouTube.
Okay.
And anyways, you'll see this fresco on the ceiling in this embassy annex. And it's 2 stallions, one black, one white, rearing up and you have an Al Hussein missile in the middle of it. Well, anyways, we're at where their little entryway is. We're at that corner where you go through this big entryway to that area, but from, the entry point. And she comes in, glad-handing, shakes my hand, and I told her about her book and told her that story I just told you, and told the folks out in Radio Land on BZ's Saloon. By the way, I popped my first beer. Salute. Anyways, so
perfect.
I'm froze at mein Herr. So the funny thing is, she goes around and me and him are just like talking to each other, and this beautiful piano music starts, right?
Oh, right.
And I'm looking at my buddy and I'm like, what are they piping music in now? And all of a sudden I'm like, it's coming around the corner, and I about break my neck to see where it's coming from. My buddy comes right around too, and everybody's moving to this opening. But right next to us, because that's where the grand piano was, and her back to us, she goes into a 20-minute classical piano concerto. And it was the most beautiful thing. And then after she's done, she just gets up real graciously, and we're all clapping, and she just waves it off and goes and out and does what she was going to do there. Sees the ambassador, or what? It wasn't the ambassador. What was it called? The governor. The governor. I guess it's an ambassador too, but he was running stuff at the time. So,
see,
yeah.
but that's a beautiful point in time. Thank you for sharing that with everybody. But that's a beautiful point in time that so few people ever experienced, never will, that you were privileged enough to have experienced personally. And it's things like that that add up over the years and make you, which is why I say your experiences, my experiences, we have had so many, and they are so wide and varied. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure you would feel the same way, I am blessed. I am absolutely blessed.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, think about it. And I'm going to keep it real with the folks out there. You guys got to hear this. Where else on this planet can a person who, and it's on our birth certificate because Ohio did that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big capital B next to my twin and sister's name on hers and on mine. And it was the screw over bastards back in the 60s when we were born. And it was so you could never achieve anything. You couldn't really do anything with your life. That's really what that was put on there for. And the interesting thing is, from the trailer park, now I own my own home. I've raised my son with my wife. I've been married for 20, going on 25 years, I think.
God bless you for that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to doubt the American dream? I can tell you the American dream is possible. I feel bad for, we'll get into that another time, I guess. But like I said, it's possible. You just have to fight. Nobody's going to give you a damn thing.
Correct.
You have to fight for everything you get.
Correct. Absolutely correct. And it is the American dream. Look, if a piece of crap like me can end up doing all the things that I've done and happy about how I've done them, it's possible. And I would wager the same thing as you. I'm going to change directions now because I think it's time to get to the real meat of the matter. Let's cut to the chase. These days, my philosophy is pretty obvious. I have a blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net. And the header of that blog says, I am pushback. And I make it plain that I'm no longer interested in being conciliatory to anyone or anything who wants to remove my fundamental freedoms on any level.
Right.
I am no longer interested in bipartisanship or compromise. That part of me is dead. I'm not interested in withdrawing. I'm not interested in turning tail. I firmly believe that at this juncture in the history of the United States, that the life or death of the United States is at stake. And maybe I'm overstating it, but I don't believe that I am in the slightest. The survival of the United States is at stake. And if the U.S. falls or fails, essentially the last bastion of true idealistic freedom on the entire damn planet, the rest of the planet itself and every other nation on it is in jeopardy.
Well, there's a quote that sums up what you said perfectly. It's by Codreno. And what he stated was the country is dying, not for the lack of men, not for the lack of programs. Let that sink in, folks. Our country is dying. It's because of the lack of men that will stand up, grab their balls, and say, "This is my country. We're gonna fix it, or fuck it." Okay. Yeah. And if a man doesn't do that, all them programs you're getting or you're able to get, all those things that you receive, all your little benefits, they mean nothing if you don't have a society that's worth keeping. I'll step off my my little lectern right now. Sorry about that.
No. As a matter of fact, I'd like you on your podium right now, because what was said, it's a republic. If we can keep it, and the big fundamental question right now these days is, can we keep it? Because this society, everything about it, about honor, truth, love, religion, is all under assault like never before. And it's occurring so frequently and on so many levels. This country has been fucked for the past 8 years by essentially a communist/socialist who grew up in that kind of an environment. And it's up to people like you and me and the new generation of people growing up, and they're not all bad, just like your son, but it's going to be our responsibility and the next generation's responsibility to unfuck what has occurred to this country. And just at the time when leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots, they've had their way for so long, they are doubling down and insisting that they double down on even moving further left. Hard to port, because that worked so well in 2016, I'm sure.
That's what I've been pushing on people from I'm a Gen Xer, right?
Right.
Well, there needs to be mentoring happening, and I've done it. I've mentored people for both the millennials. First off, it's impossible to mentor your son. You have to be a father. Mm-hmm. You can't be his friend. You can't be. Well, now he's joined.
God, correct.
Now he's joined my fraternity, so he is my brother now, technically.
Yes.
But he's still my son. And so, with that being said, BZ, I want to put out a challenge to everybody on your radio show to try to mentor somebody. Mentor one of the millennials, mentor even a Generation Z, and make sure to instill that sense of toughness, that sense of honor, that sense of loyalty, that sense of integrity, all these things that make us who we are. If you feel you have something to give, and mentoring has to be done in the most honest of ways. My mentors taught me this. My first one, he said, "Look, I'm going to give you everything I can give you to be successful." But he said, if ever there's a time you need something else that I'm not giving you, find another mentor. I'm not going to get ass hurt. You find another mentor, get from him everything you need to get from him. Once that happens, you continue to do that. And there should never be ass hurt from either. If you're mentoring somebody and you know you've given them everything and that they need to find somebody, you need to have the honest conversation with that person. But the first things first is you have to let them know, no ass hurt on my side, and there better not be on your side.
Again, let's cut to the chase, because I'm a bottom line kind of guy. And again, so many people call me a tinfoil hat wearer for even suggesting this. But I clearly believe that the best indicator of future performance, or the lack thereof, is what's occurred in the past. And people who are not familiar with history, like George Santayana says, are doomed to relive it again and again. So if we don't study history, we're in a vicious, never-ending cycle. Now, that having been said, because I'm a bottom-line kind of guy, do you foresee a possible American Civil War on the horizon? A terrible question to ask, but I'm very curious.
This is not tinfoil hatty, and it's not even up to debate. Honestly, you have to think about it in this term. You remember Weimar Germany? How
yes.
It was.
Yeah,
right?
The Weimar Republic, where if you had to, in 36 or 37, where if you wanted to buy, for example, a loaf of bread, it took a wheelbarrow full of cash to be able to go get it. Oh, good times.
But they don't tell you how decadent it was, because people were, the first transgender operation occurred during that time. People don't realize it. It was very decadent, very depraved. I don't want to get into specifics, but it was about drugs and sex. Okay, it was like that, and we have become Weimerica. Here's the issue: people talk Civil War. I make my living in failed states. I know what Civil War looks like. I know what retribution killings look like.
Exactly.
I know these things. Okay, and if you think the highways, first off, we all know the highways, of our nation were built for Defense Department.
Yes.
Okay, that's a fact. You could land a jet and get underneath a bridge, and you got a little place, a hangar, ready-made hangar. Also, the rings around the city. Every city has that little roundabout, that encircles their entire city. Think about why that is. If it goes down, that city will be cut off from anything coming in or going out without proper paper. This is not tinfoily. This is what actually, look up, you can find it in FEMA's handbook. You can find this stuff out. I mean, we used to have something that we had to train for in the Guard and in the military, and it was called the Bubba effect. And the Bubba effect is, let's say, your sister was in, I'll just put it into terms that actually happened, except this incident didn't happen, but you'll see what I'm saying. Let's say your sister got killed during 9/11 when the towers fell. No matter how you think they fell, that's what happened, okay? And so you go into a gas station and you have somebody who's Indian. They could be wearing a turban, but you don't know that because you haven't traveled anywhere. I just stuck around Ohio. I never went anywhere. And I see this guy and I'm having a bad day. My sister just got killed. I shoot the guy, He says something off color or whatever, and I shoot him. Well, here's the Bubba effect. The police come to arrest me for doing that. When the police come, all my neighbors know my sister died. They know this, that, and the other. They know me as a good guy. And when you start to put handcuffs on me, my neighbors go, no, you didn't protect him. You're not arresting him. That's the Bubba effect. Because now from one incident, and it is that easily triggered. It is that easily triggered. I was in search of a word and I found it.
Okay.
It's that easily triggered that will rip that micro thin veil of civility away from a nation state. Anyways, I'll step off my left.
I want you on it to continue, because we'll continue on that. You are absolutely correct. I call that the thin veneer of civilization, because once you poke that envelope and somehow you puncture that thin veneer of civilization, the gloves are off. Okay, so let me go to the military.
It's like a female hymen. Once it's broke, cherries pop. It's not coming back.
No. And on that vein, Okay, we know, and you are ever more intimately acquainted with it than I ever will be, and I have to admit, when I know somebody who's an SME, a subject matter expert on a particular area, yours is clearly the military. The military has taken massive hits, in my opinion, over the years. Bill Clinton riffed the fuck out of the military in the 1990s. Now, for people who don't know what a riff is, a RIF, R-I-F, is called a reduction in force. And Barack Hussein Obama allowed the defense, the military, to absolutely languish budgetarily to the point now where the U.S. Army has shrunk to pretty much its smallest level since before World War II, to the point where the number of ships in the U.S. Navy is comparable to the early 1900s. Ronald Reagan had a goal in the 1980s, and that was to achieve the 500-ship blue water Navy, not the literal Navy, I should say littorals, but an actual 500-ship Navy. That was the goal. The U.S. Air Force right now is undergoing some of the most critical times in their history when they find that they have to salvage spare parts from other older, cannibalized aircraft. I've heard stories of them having to go to Davis-Monthan Airfield in Arizona to get parts from mothballed aircraft because they cannot otherwise find and collect parts to make the current fleet of aircraft fly. Pilot hours are plunging. Both the Air Force and Navy are desperate for pilots. And who put us there?
Even NASA, because of the tech that they use for their stuff, they have to go online to buy stuff off eBay. You know, there's still floppy disks that were used on the space shuttle. People don't realize that they never really upgraded that stuff. That's why what you're seeing with the different people that are doing like SpaceX and whatnot,
right?
The heavy lift, Falcon Heavy or whatever it's called. All these things, that's why they said, let entrepreneurs do it because they can do it better, cheaper, and it'll probably be more technological. The black budget, you'll find this like with DARPA and whatnot.
Okay.
You're looking 30 years into the future with anything DARPA is doing. The military may get it, but it won't be as, how do I put this? It's not going to be, it's going to be idiot-proof. You know, you can give a private a rubber mallet and he'll destroy an M1 Abrams tank with it somehow. It's just, that's what happens.
Okay.
So they got to make it really idiot-proof. But the thing about it that I was trying to get at, I guess, is just like with contracting, you know, we make a lot of money. Well, you know, contracting is just a euphemism for what I do, but you'll pay a lot of money, but your bang for your buck is in the short term. When you were talking about the RIF, what you might not have seen was also they did a BRAC during that time. That's a base, realignment, and closure.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where Fort McClellan got shut down.
Yeah, we lost McClellan and we lost Mather in about the same 3 to 4 to 5 year period.
Right. That's when it all started. And it was done by Clinton. And then I don't even want to say what, I don't use his name. But the last resident of 1600, he did everything he could and almost did collapse this country.
Well,
and
you
I'm not making excuses.
You could likely tell me this is true because I would wager that you have the perspective. I don't think we've had, and please, I'm asking you to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe we'd had up to that point heretofore as large an officer drain as we had during the 8 years of Barack Hussein Obama because of the ridiculous societal changing policies that he decided to implement and shove upon the military.
No, it wasn't even just the military. And there was purges of the military, reminiscent of Stalin, actually, in my opinion. There was also demonstrations of valor that will never be known. on certain issues I'm not going to get into. But what I will say is you can see it now. Look at the holdovers of DOJ and FBI and how what was once vaunted as the most honorable, the most integrity of all law enforcement agencies, the daggone fucking FBI, now is looked at as a bag of shit. And everybody always wants to say, oh, well, not the rank and file. You know what? The rank and file knew exactly what was going on over their heads, and they said and did nothing about it. There have been whistleblowers. With Gunrunner, there were whistleblowers in the ATF. I will give whistleblowers credit that did this during Obama because that took balls. He was prosecuting everybody that was outing stuff. They went to prison for it. And then you have the person who challenged our current president, Donald J. Trump, doing stuff with a homebrew server, mishandling classified information, all these things that you would still see me in prison for if I would have done that.
You and I would be doing time together in different cells in Leavenworth for a pittance, a fraction of what the Democrats and the leftists have done up to this point. Now we're going to have to take a break. We got about one more minute to the break. When I come back, I want to ask you if there's any nexus or coordination between this scenario, because these days of greater concern to me are the recent naval collisions at sea, the helicopter crashes we've been watching, the aircraft crashes and the fighter crashes that we've seen, cargo planes going down and crashing. I can't help but think that this comes down to fundamental maintenance and training, and the lack of funding for any and all of this has literally, and now we're seeing the results, is now placing, folks, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your relatives, maybe even your family in jeopardy. Thank you, Barack Hussein Obama. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is the final segment, the final half hour of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. We have had the distinct honor and pleasure of talking for the entire show to KAISER SHUFF, a conservative and Oathkeeper, a silverback, a military dude who has served his country with honor. And it's been my definite pleasure to have you on here tonight, KAISER SHUFF, who has his own show, KAISER'S KASTLE. You can find his YouTube channel, Sword Point 9. Go into YouTube and then search for Sword Point 9, all lowercase, and you'll find his YouTube channel. And while you're there, get in there and subscribe to it, and then listen to his fireside chats at KAISER'S KASTLE. So again, thank you tonight. We were talking before the break, KAISER, that I believe that there is a distinct and clear connection between Barack Hussein Obama and his disastrous his influence or lack thereof on the military, and having done essentially nothing for the budget. That the various problems and crashes and collisions at sea that we're seeing these days and observing can be traced and basically laid in the lap of the former president before our current president. Are you kind of, would I be anywhere correct on this?
I would say with the things that happen on the sea, there are some issues. I would say, less touchy-feely cultural Marxism training.
Yep.
For our sailors. With the crashes, here's the thing. You have to understand something, and this goes back to like when I first came into the Army. There was a lot of people that died places covertly, and it was always done via, there was a crashed helicopter, a crash this, a crash that. Vehicle crashes were another common thing. And it's how you explain away. Look, for me to die, there was one guy, Farrell Jundy, you can look up his blog, that used to track contractors' deaths, and they were 1 for 1 in Iraq during the time I was there. Every soldier who died, there was a contractor who died. But the thing is, we're our country's scapegoat. They don't have to acknowledge us, and they shouldn't. Okay, we revel in this. This is kind of why we do it, because we enjoy this. Okay, but Pharaoh Johnny did keep track. But see, for a soldier, and this is very important, a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine, for one of them to die, that is a national treasure. It's a national crisis. It should be that way.
Yes.
They're young men. They are a part of our treasure as a nation. They need the honor. They need that. But the problem is, if you're using them in a way you can't really talk about, then it's going to be chalked up to a crash of some sort, in all honesty.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. The sub rosa subtext of what it is that you're saying, but I cannot help but be convinced that, at least in the in the naval collisions, that the OOD, whoever was the OOD that night, because ultimately it rests on the shoulders of the captain, wherever he or she may be sleeping, no matter what happens. How do you allow a ship in naval ship handling to come even close when you are smaller and more maneuverable than, say, a Maersk container ship? I believe it's lack of discipline and lack of training, and that is affected by budgets. That's just one example.
Well, see, like with one of the collisions I know, I heard it explained, and it's exactly correct. Like I said, I did a rim pack, but I didn't have the same experiences as this one gentleman who talked about it. His name's Matt Bracken, because I actually wanted to figure this out. And he actually did it.
Why does that name? That name sounds very familiar to me. Matt Bracken.
He's a former Navy SEAL.
Okay.
Anyways, he puts it succinctly. I'm going to probably fuck it up, but let's say you're going 10 degrees starboard, and it looks like you're going to pass at your speed and their speed, and it's not going to be an issue. Okay. But even the watch officer may not notice a shift of just a couple degrees and a little bit of a increase of speed. Well, that just changed the entire equation. And that's probably how those have happened. And you're not going to see it in enough time to make you may not see it in enough time. It may still look like you're going to pass and he's going to pass and everything's going to be fine until it's not going to be fine. And at that point, you won't have enough time to, take yourself out of that danger. And it's logical by the way he described it. I probably fucked it all up. You guys listen to Mac Bracken's talk on it.
Let's shift gears here just for a second. I was not a Trump guy in 2016. I became a Trump guy, however, on November 8th. And the more that he is assaulted in terms of literally everything he does, the more I find myself doubling down for him when perhaps maybe I shouldn't, and I continue to support him. I have literally, Kaiser, I have never literally in my 7 decades on this planet seen an American politician, much less a president, attacked so constantly, so fervently, with such venom, with such hate and depiction 24/7 by leftists, the Democrats, and what I term the American media maggots, plus all three of those elements, plus what I freely admit is the deep state. Now, again, I would refer people to go back to Sword Point 9 on your YouTube channel and listen to your weighing in on the deep state. I think, we know that there are 3 branches of government. We know that there's the legislative, the executive, the judicial, and I submit for everyone's approval, perhaps yours as well, is that there is now a 4th branch, a co-equal branch of state called the deep state, which occasionally has as much power, though it never should, as any one of the other 3 branches of government. It exists. It exists for no reason other than to keep itself well-funded, well-fed, in power, in control, in perpetuity, precisely like the current Democrat Party. There exists a deep state. It does exist.
I put it, it's a longer rant, but I put it pretty succinctly. I can put it pretty succinctly here. Where I talked about the deep state, it used to be called the shadow government.
Okay.
Okay, and everybody, that's conspiracy theorist bullshit, right?
No,
well,
it's not.
It's always existed. It's always existed. And the old adage of when you're getting flack, that means you're over the target really stands here.
Yes.
Because Trump, here's the thing people don't understand what Trump just did. And I don't think people realize, I think he did this with purpose. I use the adage of me being one of the ringmasters in a 3-ring circus of the shit show. Okay?
Okay.
Now picture him as being the circus master, the guy who's getting you to come into the tent. He's opening that flap so you can peek inside. Whereas, because of my position in different things, I mean, I've been to a G8 summit. I've done a lot of stuff that you guys, you know, I've done some stuff.
Right.
And I've seen how these people, even internationally, talk about the unwashed masses. And our politicians are probably the worst fucking ones of them. I'm going to be very frank with you. And so he's opening the flap for you, the uninvited, the non-ticket holders now, to look in. And you're seeing exactly what it is. It's the SES, Special Executive Service. It's also your GS-15s. They're civil servants, to be sure, but their job security is there forever.
It is.
Until they get...
Yep.
And that is the deep state, because Trump's going to be here 4 or 8 years. These may have been appointed by Carter. They may have been appointed by Clinton. They may have been appointed by... Oh, I'm not going to say his name. I'm not even going to say what I think about him.
Or the Bushes.
But you know what? I will grant you, both of them have had issues.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. But Trump has opened this up, and I've heard SESs say this to somebody once. Guy goes, well, this is what this is, and this is what and the president's wishes. And he goes, yeah, that's fine. Okay, we'll take that under advisement, but we're going to be here when he's gone. So we have to continue doing it the way we're doing it, because this is how it works.
It's what we've done always, and what we're going to continue to do. And anyone that thinks different, fuck them, because they are threatening. Exactly. They are threatening our power. Don't let the camel's nose into the tent. Don't look at the wizard behind the curtain to see how the sausage is made, because now we're watching the political sausage being made. And the curtains are being pulled back slowly and resolutely, and we're seeing finally how it actually functions, or perhaps better, the massive dysfunction in the system.
And the American people are not liking it.
No,
that's
they're not.
The thing. They keep saying this blue wave. I think that blue wave's not going to happen, and that's why nobody's really raising flags with Pelosi, saying she's going to be the next speaker again. I don't think it's going to materialize, because, and it should. It actually should, because it always happens in an off-year election. But I think the American people, when you have somebody like Kanye West coming out and saying, break the paradigm.
Oh, my God.
Get off the fucking Democrat plantation. When you have somebody like that doing it, that moves people.
It does.
And then when you see all the pedophile arrests that's been going on, look, New York City, this is something nobody's even talking about. New York City police, they made copies of everything on Weiner's laptop. So they have the name. You haven't seen it made national on how many pedos have been arrested. And trust me, they can throw that on anybody's computer, yours, mine, whatever. If they want you, they'll do that kind of crap. But we're talking legit stuff now, right? Now you're seeing an actress from Smallville involved in pedophilia and flying people out to a certain island.
You're right.
You're seeing all these things, but they all seem disconnected. How many in L.A. did they arrest? It was like 700 and something about a year back. So all this thing seems disjointed, and that scares them too, because that is a part of the blackmail process. What's the old adage they used to say in the Senate and the Congress? Don't get caught with a dead girl, and don't get caught with a live boy. That's what the fuck they used to say.
In the Middle East, it's don't get caught with your favorite goat. I didn't say that, really. Yes, I did, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Let me ask you really quickly, because one of my good dudes who served, he worked for me when I was a sergeant, and one of the first things that I can remember him telling me, he just got promoted to lieutenant last week, the bastard. Cool. One of the first things that he told me, however, is when I went to the Middle East, and I went during the Gulf War, just like you, he's about your age. No, he's a little younger than you are. One of the first things he said is, I discovered an amazing thing that no one wants to talk about in terms of the Middle East version of practicing Islam. And that's this. Boys are for pleasure and women are for procreation. And no one wants to tell you that. And he said he was absolutely shocked when he discovered that, because that's a secret that no one wants out.
That he's not far off on that. I don't really want to go in depth on that, but I mean, I can. I mean, it doesn't really. It's not an issue to me. But here's the thing, man.
I don't know why I threw that in. I just threw it in because I happen to be thinking about it.
No. He's not wrong. Islam is and this is why I don't want to. I always tell people on my show that the people's politics do not reflect my politics, and my politics are, well, I'm just to the right of Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, I'm out there. But by my political thought process, that is a problematic religion. And I just don't want to get you in trouble.
You are being so kind. You are really tamping down the issue, and maybe I shouldn't have raised it in the first place. But I kudos to you, KAISER Schuff, for being so kind in terms of that quantification. Let's continue. We only got about 7 or 8 more minutes before the absolute end of the show. Cool. You already gave me your thoughts on the midterms. What are your thoughts on the current iteration of, first, the Democrats?
They're Marxists. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Let me forget what I just said. They're Marxists, but their constituents are Maoists. And so they don't realize that what they're fomenting is not going to be a Marxist revolution. It's going to be a Maoist revolution. And remember, the Long March, they killed the pointy-headed academics. And the academics in colleges are also pushing Maoism or Marxism. But the kids, if they're not to the right like you and I, they are to the Maoist left, not the Marxist left.
Yep.
And so there's going to be if something pops in that direction, you're going to see a long march. You're not going to see the General Stalin purges.
First, I was going to ask you this at the end, but I'll ask you this now. There are so many places and topics and issues that I would want to go over with you because we are frequently of such like minds. Now, having been said, you have an open invitation ad infinitum to come back on the show any damn time you want, because literally, folks, you may have seen if you're watching live that I've got pieces of paper down here, and I keep putting them over to the side. I have had so many questions for Kaiser, and I haven't been able to get to a literal fraction of the topics and the points that I would like to have addressed tonight. But before we go, I want to make you aware of just like yourself, I am certain of this, you are an ardent and avid and almost a frothing supporter of the Second Amendment, because absent the Second Amendment, we have no First Amendment. And when the First Amendment is gone, this country falls. And when this country falls, the rest of the planet and all the other nations are in jeopardy. I'm going to read to you, sir, an op-ed piece that just came out yesterday in USA Today, which sent me 210/190. Because it's finally revelatory in terms of when leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots are telling you, we're not here to take your guns. Well, now, finally, someone has the courage to tell you to your face, yeah, we're here to take your guns. This is an op-ed piece by Eric Swalwell. Now, for those who don't know him, Eric Swalwell is a representative from the San Francisco district in the state of California. That should be an amazing clue up front. The headline of the article in the op-ed piece that he wrote is, "Ban assault weapons, buy them back, go after resistors." Then he goes into a thing about, he's talking, I'm not even going to go into this, when he talks about a guy that was shot, and, there's gun violence all over the place. Then he starts talking about children and assault weapons, and what he says, I'm going to get to the meat of the matter, is this: instead, we should ban possession of military-style semi-automatic assault weapons. We should buy back such weapons from all who choose to abide by the law, and we should criminally prosecute any who choose to defy it by keeping their weapons. The ban would not apply to law enforcement agencies or shooting clubs. And to Eric, I say, Eric, who's going to go to someone's house? Eric, have you ever heard of the phrase Molan Lave? What would be your response? Kaiser.
I have a very simple response. You're already seeing them trying to edit the First Amendment. Fake news is real. It happens to be mainstream media. It's not your program. It's not mine. We're speaking facts.
Yes, we are.
They're going after people like AJ. They're going after people all over the place. They'll probably start going after Bigfooters. They'll start going after everybody that they deem as fake news because they don't want an opposing opinion. Now, here's the thing. This is a tricky thing. If they do that, that will be Molan Labe. That says a lot. Come and take them. But the thing that's even more prescient is you're going to have that will rip the bell. That will rip the bell. That won't even be a slight breath. Like I said, a breath could take that bell and make it go away, or a slight whatever. You are talking. They actually physically pull that bell down, and you don't want to see what that looks like. I know what it will look like.
You've seen it.
And it's not the sticky, wet, masturbational thoughts that people have that are like, oh, Civil War will do this. Look, it's the cities versus the countryside.
That's exactly
the problem is the countryside, there's such a thing called sewer pipe, and they will bury their guns. And you're not going to get their guns. And it will be a law enforcement, military drain that no nation, look, you have 300 million Americans. There's something like 370 million firearms in the U.S. You're going to take them all? No. It's undoable. And instead of it being an insurgency like Iraq and Afghanistan where people don't speak your language, the people that go to work on the base where the military or police have to go with the big T-walls that'll be pumping their fuel, that'll be sucking out the shit in their shitters, that'll be doing all the stuff that they have to do to keep that base operational. They're coming out at the end of the workday, and they're going to tell their brother, cousin, uncle, hey, they're going out tomorrow at 7 a.m. It becomes a TRE, a target-rich environment at that point.
I can't have summarized it up better than that. And with that, it's time to go. Folks, I have to tell you, we've been talking to KAISER SHUFF tonight. You know him also as Sword Point 9. He is a soldier, a patriot, a conservative, a silverback, an Oathkeeper, a sheepdog forever. Brother, it has been my very distinct honor to speak to you tonight. And like I said, you have one of a handful of open-ended invitations to come back on the show any time you wish. And finally, before you go, I have to ask, tell people where you can be found and where they can see your show and listen to what you say.
It's Sword Point 9, small letters, Sword Point, spelled just like it sounds, and then the numeral 9 on YouTube. That's where I'm at, and enjoy it. It's nothing more than me trying to let my son know what's going on and went on during the times that I wasn't there, and then talking to friends about different things.
Perfect.
And I appreciate the offer, and you have that same offer on my channel, brother. I meant that when, we were a kindred spirit when we talked the other night, and it was very nice talking with you. I felt very nice.
Number 1, I'd love to go on your show. Number 2, I'd love to see you back. Number 3, my hours may be changing up 2 hours in the future. I'm not sure when, which would make it a little bit easier for you on the far East Coast to be on the show. Thank you. God bless you, sir. Take care. Be safe.
God bless you, too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was KAISER Shuff. He's got his own show. He's done anything and everything that you could possibly think of. And as I indicated, I had a great time, and what incredible insight he provided tonight. I was thankful to have him here.
Monsieur has unlocked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can go to my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net. I'm on Twitter at BZEP, B-Z-E-P. I have a Facebook page, Biff Zeppy. Do you think that's my real name for Facebook? Hell no. My original music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at ReverbNation.com. Promotional consideration by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And Pratt & Whitney engines thrust. You can trust. And thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Or maybe even after having been persuaded by Carrie Baxter Donovan. Maybe a little bit of bullet vodka. Thanks to KAISER Shuff for being here tonight. Thanks to you for listening live. Thanks to you for being in the chat room. And thanks to everybody who listens to me in podcast. God bless. Have a great weekend. Take care. You be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.